Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Sports Time HQ. I am your host, Fernando. Joining with me today is my great co-host, Gary, not Keith. Keith, unable to join us here today, but we are here. Gary, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. It's Thanksgiving weekend, so looking forward to spending some time with my family and eat some good food and watch some good football. Hopefully, the games aren't great.
Hopefully is the very big hope you have for these games.
Yeah.
But of course, it is Thanksgiving week coming up. So everyone back at home, of course, is going to enjoy those big turkeys, chickens, whatever you cook. I mean, honestly, I'll be cooking something here. I will be trying to cook a turkey for the first time. Don't know how that's going to go.
Yeah, good luck.
We'll see if the wings are still flapping after I cook it or if it's good to eat. Or if it's burnt. I mean, that's also a possibility here these days. First off, Browns. We talked a little bit before the show, but of course, people can't hear us in the backstage seats. But the Browns, they won Thursday Night Football. They killed our predictions on taking the Steelers and having Mike Tomlin get a 17th winning season straight. Talk to me about your Browns.
No, I mean I watched it. It was a great game. The Snow Bowl. I loved it. Never want to lose to the Steelers. However, could come back to bite us when it comes back to draft time. We'll see. Definitely don't like that we're all the way down at pick number 8, but we still have a lot of time to drop even lower. So hopefully we do that. But yeah, like I said, went over the Steelers. Can't really be upset with that. But an interesting stat that I saw, I'm not sure if you saw it too, was I believe in the Browns' past 12 Thursday night games, they're like 9-3 or 10-2 or something like that.
So the goal is for the Browns to only play Thursday Night Football.
Exactly. That's insane.
Yeah, that is actually an insane stat. I actually didn't get to see that stat. Patriots, well, we know they're losing, but they're doing great. They're doing great for the Tankathon to try and get a top pick and secure a top wide receiver. Hopefully, knowing them, they'll take a tackle or whatnot. But yeah, let's go into some news and notes around the league. And first off, I mean, this was probably, a day or two after our show last week. Daniel Jones officially getting cut from the New York Giants. I mean, we already knew it was going to happen, but we thought maybe it was going to happen next season in the offseason. Well, as of yesterday at 4:01 p.m. Eastern time, he has officially cleared waivers, and he can join any team he wants.
Yeah, who's going to take a stab at him? I don't know. But, I mean, I hate Daniel Jones. I think he's awful. But, I mean, he probably deserves a backup job at least. It's not like he's never been a winning quarterback. I mean, they went to the playoffs one year. And he's definitely shown some moments of being a solid quarterback, but then he had the knee injury and, he had the concussion. Things kind of went downhill from there. But at the end of the day, he's just never really been a good quarterback at all. So I expect him to get signed by somebody, but I don't think it'll be a starting role, if I'm being honest.
Now, of course, there are some possibilities of him getting signed to teams who are in need of a quarterback. For instance, the Jaguars, the Cowboys, and even the Raiders. Who kind of lost their quarterbacks. Yeah. So here's my funny thing. I know we're expecting a little DeVito and a little Cooper Rush action for Thanksgiving, but what would be so funny is if Daniel Jones went to the Cowboys and lit the Giants up like a Christmas tree.
I would love it. I mean, I've always been a Giants hater just because, I don't know. For some reason, I always found them to be a boring team. But, yeah, I would laugh at that happening, of course. And it would probably be like the only good game he plays for the rest of his career. That's what the funny thing would be. But it would definitely be meaningful for him. Maybe it gives him some confidence if that were to happen. However, I think him to a place like Las Vegas is kind of a match made in heaven because you think right now they're obviously not very good, but they're young. They got Brock Bowers, even the guy Jacoby Myers. Definitely some young talent on that team. So why not maybe try to rebuild there? I don't think Daniel Jones is the answer, but maybe he could just be a, current bridge guy that gets them to however far they want to go.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. obviously these teams, they don't want to keep winning games. If you're the Raiders, you want to just tank the whole way, trying to secure yourself a top pick for next year's draft. Of course, the Giants' season is pretty much over. There's rumors that Drew Lock should be the starting quarterback, but I think they know they have a worse chance of winning with Tommy DeVito.
Yeah.
Speaking of terrible teams, let's talk about the Jets. Aaron Rodgers. There was rumors that he could be possibly shut down for the season. Obviously, there was a lot of lingering injuries that he's been dealing with, but are we really going to see Aaron Rodgers move on from the Jets? Are they going to move on from him?
That'll definitely be an interesting situation to keep an eye on. Everybody thought that the Jets would be one of the better teams in the league once Rodgers got there. I mean, they're loaded with both young and veteran talent on both sides of the ball. Just simply hasn't worked out, which, happens at times. But I saw something, I'm a big Browns guy, and there was like a big Browns fan who had posted something saying like, would you like it if Rodgers came to Cleveland for 1 year? Absolutely not. I mean, I love Aaron Rodgers. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. He's the reason why I love the Packers as my NFC team. However, I hate to admit it, but I think, he's kind of done. You've seen the past.
So you're saying he should retire?
I think it might be time, as much as I hate to say it, because he's probably the most talented quarterback I've ever seen touch a football field. But that time's over. He's getting old, and he just maybe doesn't have it anymore. And I thought that connection with Devontae Adams would be there almost immediately, and I was just completely wrong there. So, yeah, I don't know. I can't really defend Aaron Rodgers much more, I guess. It sucks, but we're at a point where it might be time.
Yeah, honestly, it's pretty intriguing just to hear that Aaron Rodgers could be shut down for the year, even though he really could still play the whole season. There's rumors that he could be going some other teams who maybe it'd be so funny to see if he maybe went to another team and then just does amazing. But I think it's time for either him to decide, are you going to retire or are you going to do one more season? I don't see you doing more than another 1 or 2 seasons max.
Agreed.
Franco from Montana watching us. How's it going, Franco? Demarcus Robinson arrested on suspicion of DUI on Monday.
Really?
This is some just notes, some news that I saw on NFL.com, and I was kind of shocked because not many people knew about it. I don't even think you knew about it until just now.
I know it.
Exactly. So it's intriguing. I think just keep your eyes out on Demarcus Robinson. He has been a playmaker for the Rams recently. I've seen Nakua and Cooper Kupp, the top dogs in the Rams receiving core. But if Robinson, say, for instance, ends up being more of a big deal and they either release him or he doesn't suit up this week, Tutu Atwell, that's the next man up.
Yeah,
that's all I got for Demarcus Robinson.
It is. Tutu Atwell is the next guy up, but I honestly think it's going to be bigger for the other two guys. I mean, we see Demarcus Robinson kind of be that home run play guy. He had a touchdown last week against the Eagles. I think that he is kind of one of their biggest playmakers in the offense. Could be as valuable as the other two guys just due to the fact that he's caught so many touchdowns this year. Like, I think he's got like 6 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns, something like that, which you probably wouldn't expect Demarcus Robinson to have 11, 12 weeks into the year. But, yeah, I think it's going to open up so much more opportunity for the first two guys more than Tutu Atwell, because I think that at the end of the day, one of their biggest playmakers go down. Who do you look for? You're probably your top guys. So I think that's big for Kupp and Nakua owners.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Franco saying, why go through all the work to replace the coach and management and effort to get Devontae Adams there, then want to leave? So he does bring up a good point on the Aaron Rodgers situation, because the whole point of Devontae Adams going there was to win games and play with his former franchise quarterback when they played in Green Bay. If, for instance, Aaron Rodgers leaves, does Devontae Adams leave as well?
Yeah, it's another thing to watch out for because, there are already rumors swirling that Devontae Adams is, unhappy in New York and he already wants out, which is crazy. We're kind of still in this diva era and it only is getting worse, I guess. But yeah, he probably will leave if Aaron Rodgers either were to get shut down or, not be a Jet going forward. So sucks to see, but at the end of the day, I mean, the Jets season is probably over. And Franco, I completely agree with you. I mean, they just went through all these changes just to pretty much be garbage again, and then now it's already getting thrown out the window, and we're not even a year down with it.
Yeah, and I'd be surprised if Devontae Adams decides to stay there even when Rodgers leaves.
Yeah.
Be shocked. Let's go into the 2025 current draft order that we're seeing. Obviously, this can still change as the season goes on. Teams win, teams lose. But starting up at number 10 is the Cincinnati Bengals. They sit at 4-7. They still have a chance to somehow make playoffs, sitting at 4-7. Then goes number 9, New Orleans Saints, who sit at 4-7. My prediction for the Saints was they were only get 4 wins. We could very much see them lose out. Number 8, your Cleveland Browns, Gary, sitting at 3-8. Currently, your offense is horrendous, 31st ranked, from what they say, not me. New York,
they're right.
New York Jets coming in at 7, also sitting at 3-8. Season's pretty much done. Titans as well, 3-8, sitting at 6. The Panthers at 3-8, and then at number 4, New England Patriots. That's all we need, 3-9. They got themselves a bye week next week. The Raiders at 2-9. Like I said, Daniel Jones, we could see him going there, but obviously the goal is to not win games so they can secure a top pick. The Giants are at number 2, and this could be the Giants' first time in 60 years getting the number 1 overall pick.
Wow.
And Gary, do we want to mention who this team is at number 1? Do you want to say this team that could possibly get their 3rd number 1 overall pick in 3 of the last 4 years?
Yeah, I mean, I tried telling you from the start. I mean, this team's done. Jacksonville Jaguars, they're currently in the driver's seat for the number 1 pick, and I would honestly be surprised if they don't get it, which sucks because I feel like they could go so many routes here. It'll be very interesting to see, though, because they just gave Trevor Lawrence this insane amount of money, and he's kind of being really, really mid this year. So we'll see.
Jacksonville Jaguars, of course, absolutely terrible. Which I had a little bit of faith in them, just I didn't expect them to do this.
Yeah.
But out of these 10, I mean, one that intrigues me the most is the Bengals, who are because of the fact that they are still in the playoffs. To beat a confident, they have a chance to make it to the playoffs. But 4-7, you need to start winning games. I know that they've had so many tough losses, but if they can somehow turn their season around, they might be able to just squeeze into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Or 9, or even 10. Going into our next little segment of the injuries report real quick, I'm just going to name you some guys. Who's the most important one to watch? Quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, of course, he had that shoulder injury. He was out for week 11, chance for week 13. He did practice yesterday. Gardner Minshew, collarbone for the Raiders. We mentioned how Aiden O'Connell will be the next guy up over there. He is out for the season. Gardner Minshew. For the running backs, it's been a hospital out there for the running back crew. Miles Sanders, he's officially been placed on IR with an ankle injury, could be out for the rest of the year. Alexander Madison and Zamir White both battling injuries for the running backs in Las Vegas. Madison dealing with an ankle injury, White dealing with a quad injury. Both were ruled out for week 12. J.K. Dobbins, he left the game early with a knee injury yesterday in last night's game with the Chargers. David Montgomery, shoulder injury, left game in the 3rd quarter, and he did not practice on Monday. This is with a shoulder injury. This is something to monitor right here. Brian Robinson, say that again?
Said, uh-oh.
Yeah. Indeed. Brian Robinson ankle injury left the game in the second half. They're kind of playing a wait and see approach with him. Austin Eckler left the game in the fourth quarter with a concussion. He is in concussion protocol. Another one to monitor throughout the rest of the week. Darnell Mooney, hamstring injury, just monitor again this week. Along with Keon Coleman with a wrist injury. These two players didn't play in week 11. They had a bye week in week 12. Romeo Dobbs in concussion protocol. He did not return against the San Francisco game. And he also did not practice on Monday. Josh Downs, shoulder injury, left the game in the second half, week to week, and has a very long shot to play against the Patriots in week 13. And lastly, for the tight ends, Dalton Kincaid, knee injury. Again, he had that bye week last week. This is just a thing to monitor this week in practice. Will he be able to suit up, or will Dawson Knox be the guy for the tight end position in Buffalo? And then lastly, Jake Ferguson, concussion, long shot to play this Thursday.
So,
big injury report.
I think the biggest thing for me, right? It's one of the most obvious ones. As much as I love him, we've been saying it all year. It's going to come eventually. We may have just seen it come now. J.K. Dobbins, always having those the lower leg injuries. It is really sad because, I loved watching him at Ohio State. He's one of my favorite Buckeyes of all time. But ever since he stepped on the NFL football field, he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And it makes me so angry because I think he's such a great player. We're seeing it this year. He started this year on fire. And I know that all my J.K. Dobbins owners in fantasy are very happy because if you drafted him in the 13th round or something like that, you got a late round stud. Hopefully that isn't going to affect you here come playoff time, because it's literally the worst time to lose a guy like this going into the playoffs. But it's definitely possible. He's seen numerous large injuries like this, so I hope it's not the same.
Yeah, this is a huge blow for the Chargers because J.K. Dobbins has been playing very well this season, but that knee injury, if it lingers, it could hurt you in fantasy. J.K. Dobbins has been a top 15 back all season, which is shocking to think about. Another one that I want to mention for me that I think is the biggest, and it's exactly where you said David Montgomery. I mean, he has been so consistent, so touchdown dependent. He has scored pretty much every single week besides two. And in 2 of the weeks as well this season, he scored 2 touchdowns. So he's basically scored on average a touchdown a game. And if he is out, Jahmyr Gibbs, sky's the limit. But David Montgomery has been a really good guy in fantasy that you've been able to start every single week, and you're going to get at least 13 plus points just about a week. So this one's a tough one.
For sure. I completely agree. As much I'm a Gibbs owner and I have been for 2 years, so I despise David Montgomery. However, never want to see a player go down like this. Injuries are terrible, so I'm hoping and praying, he is able to get back out there. However, in the fantasy football world, all my Gibbs owners, we're definitely sitting in a good spot right now because, the Gibbs production has been great all year, just exactly what we expected. Sucks that he gets 50-50 carries with David Montgomery, but now that David Montgomery's out, what are we going to see from Gibbs? I mean, I'm expecting huge end of the season if David Montgomery is unable to continue playing football.
Yeah, if he has to miss time, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs becomes a true league winner. I mean, he's already been a top 10 running back, but he should be able to finish top 5 almost every single week if Montgomery has to miss time.
Yep.
Let's go into this little new segment that I wanted to talk about today. And of course, Gary, we're already going on to week 13. Week 13. Can you believe that? The season's pretty much almost over.
Flying by. It's crazy. I hate it, but
it's crazy. It's crazy. And then next thing you know, it's gonna be the off season. And then we're back to football. It's crazy.
Depression.
Playoff picture, pretenders or contenders. I want to go through right now what we can see is the playoff picture for both the AFC and the NFC. Some teams who are in the hunt. And Gary, you're going to basically tell me, in the AFC anyways, first, we're going to talk about who can be a true pretender. Chiefs, 10-1. Clearly a pretender, right?
No. Contenders, year after year, they've been a contender. They're going to stay that way.
Yep. Agreed. Bills, pretenders or contenders?
Coming into this season, I would have called them pretenders, but they look great, so I'm going to have to label them as contenders.
I can 100% agree to that whole entire statement right there. Steelers 8-3. They are third right now in the seedings. Playoff or pretenders or contenders. I already know. I knew it.
Right,
I knew it.
You could call me biased if you want. Just go look at their past 4 playoff histories. First round exits the past 4 years. It's going to happen again.
All right. Intriguing. They do have a 93% playoff probability to make it to the playoffs, and I would be shocked if they don't make it to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Texans, pretenders or contenders?
Oh, man.
So sad. It's so sad.
Contenders so bad, but I really don't think they are. Stroud has not looked great this year. It pisses me off to say because I love him so much, but he really has not looked great. They're hurt in the wide receiver position. The defense has been solid, but I'm going to have to call them pretenders. I really don't think that, I really can't see them beating any of the top guys.
Okay. I have to say they are contenders only because of the fact that the division's so bad that the next team up is the Colts, who are 2 games away from them. And I just don't see the Texans giving up their top seed in the division.
I would definitely agree with that. I think my point is the way I'm looking at pretenders and contenders is if they can beat the guys that, you expect to be contenders year after year. I can't see them beating a team with the Bills. I can't see them beating a team with the Chiefs. It depends on it depends who they get, the first round, but can they even win their first round game? I think they will win their first round game, but like I said, I don't think they'll beat any of the top guys.
Franco's saying that Texans lost to the Jets.
Yeah, they did. I mean, regular season stuff gets kind of thrown out the window when it comes to the playoffs, but at the same time, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I like to keep an eye on it still, especially like, for example, last year, the Rams started out awful, and they finished the season very good, and they I forgot who they played first round. Was it the Lions or was that second round? I don't know. But they ended up losing to the Lions, but they started out awful. I can't exactly remember what it was, but it was like 2-6 or something like that. People were like, they're not going to make the playoffs. Not even going to come close. Here comes Stafford and the Rams, firing up the outside. Yeah. And they made playoffs and had a great playoff game against the Lions. So I don't like to look at regular season stuff, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I would label them as pretenders right now.
All right. Intriguing. Ravens, pretenders or contenders? I think this one's an easy one. Contenders for me.
Pretenders. It's not easy.
Biasy, here we go again. AFC North team.
It depends what you label as a contender or pretender, because if you have them winning their first game, sure. But I still don't think that they'll beat either the Chiefs or the Bills. I really don't.
I think they could beat the Chiefs.
I don't think so. We saw it last year. Chiefs are going to have home field advantage too. No, I don't think so.
Chargers 6th seed, 7-4, 86% playoff probability rate. Pretenders or contenders?
Well, here's the thing with
pretenders
me, right? I'm going to say they're pretenders. However, that defense is legit. And I didn't want to say it because I really didn't I thought halfway in the season it was just because they hadn't played anybody, but they are legit. They're locked down. So they could be a sneaky team. I really do think that they could be a sneaky team. But I will say that they're pretenders.
All right. Lastly, in the 7th seed, the Broncos, playoff contenders or pretenders?
Yeah, no, they're pretenders. They're playing good right now. Bo Nix is playing great. Defense is studded out. So they're maybe another sneaky team that could upset their first rounder team. But besides that, I don't think they're going to do anything.
This might be a little bold, but I could see them as being a contender. They almost beat the Chiefs. They did lose in a 1-score game to the Chargers, and they did get blown out by the Ravens. But I really think they can be contenders.
But we're talking about regular season again, right? We were just talking about that.
All right, but still, Bo Nix, sure you tell me he's inexperienced, but isn't he, 24, 25? Such an old quarterback?
He's an older rookie.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I think here's the thing. If they're the 7th seed and they get matched up against the Bills or whoever the 2 seed is,
Mhm.
that's not going to go well for them.
Okay.
They're not going to beat the Bills. If they were to sneak into the top playoff seed and go up against the Texans, I definitely think that they can win that game.
Okay. I can see that. I can see that for sure. Right now, playoff hunt for the AFC. I'm just going to give you the next 3 teams, because after that is the Browns, and we all know the Browns ain't making it. Dolphins, Colts, Bengals. All these teams have less than a 21% playoff probability prediction to make it.
Not really expecting any of these teams, honestly. I don't know.
Yeah, I really want to see the Bengals come back. I'd love to see the Bengals turn around their season, really take another chance. I know, Gary, it's another AFC North team, but
I mean, I know they were your Super Bowl pick, so that's why I was smiling.
they were mine, not for me. They're Keith's. No, they're Keith's.
I thought you loved them this year, or was that last year? I don't know, something like that.
I think I liked them last year. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head about the Bengals, but I know Keith loves the Bengals.
It's just annoying because, I mean, I see it every year because, Joe Burrow went to the bowl once, right? He did.
Yeah.
However, why are we acting like he has a ring? Like, I feel like, so many people had the Bengals going to the bowl, not only going to the bowl, but winning it this year. I mean, that defense is awful. I'm sorry. You need a good defense. It's the same reason why I think the Ravens are pretenders, because their defense is awful. It's not going to be able to keep up with a playoff offense. I'm sorry. It's really not. You need at least top half offense or defense to be able to win a Super Bowl. And I don't think that the Ravens are going to be able to do that. That defense isn't even solid. It's terrible. So I think same thing here with the Bengals. The defense is terrible. The offense is great. So I think that, they can win a Super Bowl with that offense. That defense is just awful. I don't think that they stand a chance.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I think that's something to keep in mind in the draft for the Bengals, because of how brutal they've had. If you do end up getting a top 12 pick, you got to go deep defensively. Your offense is star-studded.
Exactly.
Quickly going to the NFC, pretenders or contenders. Coming in at number 1, the Lions.
I think they're contenders. It's them or the Chiefs. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. That's me.
Yeah, exactly. Eagles. I would have said like 4 or 5 weeks ago, Eagles would be pretenders, but they're looking like contenders now.
Completely agree with you. I had Rams plus 3.5 as my last leg of my big parlay a couple days ago, and I was pretty upset with the Eagles, but hey, they look really, really good. Saquon looks like one of, if not the best running backs in the league.
Exactly. Seahawks, 3rd seed right now. Seahawks 6-5 right now, first in the NFC West. Pretenders or contenders?
Sorry, Keith. I'm going to say this about any team that makes it out of the NFC West. I think they're pretenders. I mean, that NFC West right now is kind of tight, but do I see any of those teams winning or being anything in the playoffs? Probably not.
Yep. I also say pretenders. Falcons, 4th seeded team, 6-5. Pretenders or contenders?
I think some other pretenders for me. Yeah, I'll see with that.
Okay. Vikings, wild card team, 5th seeded team, 9-2. Pretenders or contenders?
I'm going to say that they're contenders. However, I think that they'll beat their first round team, whoever that is. Yeah.
After their back-to-back losses, I thought that they could have easily been pretenders, but looks like they're back in the groove. I'm also going to agree with you. Give me them as a contender. Packers, contenders or pretenders?
Contenders. I mean, I can't go against my pack.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, they're going to obviously rely on Jordan Love. He needs to stay healthy if they were to have any choice.
Completely agree. Unless they want Malik Willis to be the next guy up. 7th seeded team, the Commanders, pretenders or contenders? If you asked me this like 4 weeks ago when the team was rolling, I'd say contenders, but to me, they're pretenders now.
I hate that I'm going to agree with you because I said a few weeks ago that, this is a team in the NFC that I'm probably going to root for the most besides the Packers because I just love how they're playing. They play with absolutely no care in the world, and they win games that way. So I would have loved to say that they were contenders, but I agree with you. Past couple weeks has been kind of shaky, so I'm going to have to say pretenders.
And lastly, for the wild card, 8, 9, 10, 11, we'll talk 4 teams: Cardinals, Buccaneers, Rams, 49ers. Cardinals, Buccaneers both have over 50% chance to make it to the playoffs. Rams and 49ers have 15 and 10, or 10% for the Rams, 15 for the 49ers. Any of these teams could make it to the playoffs. Which one are you looking at?
I mean, I mentioned it earlier. The Rams could sneak in there. I'm surprised they have only a 10% chance. Maybe it's probably because their schedule. I don't know how tough it is, but that's probably the reason. They could definitely sneak in there. They did the same thing last year, like I had mentioned earlier, so I wouldn't be surprised. Although, I like the Cardinals. As much as they are surprising me this year, I think that they could win enough games to end up in that last spot.
Interesting. I can see the Bucs taking it over the Falcons, in my opinion.
Understandable. That's definitely one that I honestly didn't even think about because they could still win that division.
Yeah. You mentioned the Rams' remaining schedule. They go on to face the Saints, the Bills, the Niners, the Jets, the Cardinals, the Seahawks. So I'd say it's kind of a mid to higher strength team rest of the season. All right. You got any more news and notes or injuries or anything? No? All right. Let's get into the official segment, of course, of the show. Let's talk about waiver wire quarterbacks. And I will start with my guy in Sam Darnold. Mr. I see ghosts, thinks he's seeing ghosts. I don't know. He's not seeing ghosts here. I tell you that. He's in Minnesota, and he's seeing everything but ghosts. This guy has been doing great. Right now, the quarterback 9 on the year. He's a top 10 quarterback, and he's just shy of 70%. 21.1 fantasy points this past week. He's finished QB9 or better in 3 of his last 4 games. And he's a guy I think that you can trust moving forward and can easily be a week-to-week starter.
Yeah, I can't hate on it. He's been playing great this year. What I do love is that he's utilizing TJ Hawkinson. He wasn't in the first half. However, the second half, TJ Hawkinson went nuclear, so I was very happy with that. My starting tight end. So Sam Darnold, please use TJ Hawkinson. What I'm really surprised about, however, is the fact that he's been able to be so successful without Justin Jefferson going off each week. Because honestly, this past couple games for him has been kind of trash, maybe mid at best. So, I think that's really the big thing that I've taken away from Sam Darnold is even without his wide receiver 1 being great, he's still doing pretty good. So,
yeah, I'm just hoping that Justin Jefferson can kind of turn the season around.
Agreed. He needs it.
Very much. Keith, of course, isn't here. Like we've mentioned, he'll be back hopefully next week. But his waiver wire out of the week is Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson was my guy and your guy at least one time this season. Maybe you had Justin Fields over Russell Wilson. But Russell Wilson, he's got an up and down season right now. He finished in the last 3 weeks QB9, really good. QB26, QB19. I think the reason why he's saying this as his waiver wire out of the week is because they go on to take Cincinnati this upcoming week. It's a very favorable matchup for Russell Wilson and that Steelers offense.
Yeah, I can't hate on it. I completely agree that the matchup is probably the biggest thing here. So if you need a quarterback just for 1 week, I think Russell Wilson's a great addition because the Bengals defense is trash.
And of course, Gary, if you need to go down to the waiver wire store and staff your quarterback position up, who would it be?
Nice transition. My guy is Matt Stafford. He's been playing well the past 2 weeks. 19.2 points this past week against the Eagles in a blowout game. So the script wasn't even really that good for him, and he still put up almost 20 points. We're starting to see the production we know and love from Stafford when both of his top wideouts are finally healthy again. Hopefully, DeMarcus Robinson will be able to play going forward. Who knows, though? But yeah, I think Matt Stafford and the Rams are maybe starting to get on track in terms of production. Wins is one thing, but when it comes to fantasy, Nakua is the top guy. I think Kupp's kind of at the bottom right now, but I think the Rams offense as a whole has been playing a lot better. So
Nakua definitely the top dog. I think one of the scariest things to see with the Rams is they're starting to get hot. And if these teams don't slow them down, these Rams could make another late season run.
Yeah.
And if I'm correct, didn't they make that when they won the Super Bowl?
Yeah,
It was
they
like
did.
a late season run.
Yeah, they weren't even like that great of a team. I think they finished 10-7 that year, maybe.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So just keep an eye out on the Rams. But if Matthew Stafford again, he had a good scramble too. I don't know if you noticed. I saw him scramble, but I think he had like a 12-yard scramble. So he doesn't rush a lot, but when he does, I guess he can be efficient. So he can still use his legs. You might get some rushing upside. Don't expect that. Don't expect that at all. But yeah, I like Matthew Stafford. I think he's a great pick. Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson, and Matthew Stafford, our top waiver wire quarterback ads of the week. Let's go into the running backs, and we'll start with Keith's first, and it's Mr. Gus the Bus Edwards. And, when he first put it down, I was very confused why he did. But again, when you're in a European country and you watched the highlights, but you didn't know that Gus the Bus was the lead back to end the game. You're really thrown off. Because I tell you, I was watching the highlights and I saw him put the Gus the Bus, and I was like, why is he putting Gus Edwards? He only got like 7 points.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, wait, okay, now it all makes sense. J.K. Dobbins getting injured. But I completely love this pick for Gus Edwards and Keith because J.K. Dobbins, he could very much hurt his knee even more if he plays again. And if he does, Gus Edwards is the guy for the rest of the season.
So, Freddie, I'm not sure if you remember here, but when we were doing when we were statting players at the beginning of the year, Gus Edwards is one of my guys. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
I think I had him finished at like RB12 or something like that, RB10, which is insane to think.
You did a ridiculous stat.
However, that's honestly really just because I was factoring the fact that I think JK was just going to be riddled with injury all year. Could that happen? Potentially. We just saw him go down. I don't know if you saw the replay of it, but his knee did not go in the right way. So honestly, it could be another tear. I don't want to say it, but it could be, and that could open up so much opportunity for Gus Edwards. He's clearly the lead back. I think Kamani Vidal is running back 3 on that team. So they're going to look for Gus Edwards so much to carry tote that ball around. Obviously, we saw it at the end of the last game. Yeah, I think Gus Edwards is such a good pick here. He's open in 70% of leagues, so if he's on the waiver wire, you got to pick him up.
I was going somewhere with this question. Oh, if you really think about it, though, your stat isn't as crazy of a stat because if J.K. Dobbins ended up not being that lead back, Gus Edwards could have easily been a top 15 back as well.
For sure, yeah.
20.
I mean, we're seeing it from J.K., so it's like, that's why I threw that out there because, I mean, I maybe just, got the person wrong. However, if we're just going off of the Chargers back, I guess I was kind of in that realm. But I think Gus Edwards is going to be a guy that can be a league winner if J.K. Dobbins misses the rest of the year.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And the fact that he's still in the waivers, you can go pick him up easily. And he could be probably one of the best backs for the remainder of the season in the waiver store. Gary, you're going to talk about a guy that I talked about last week, I see.
Yeah, you talked about him last week, and I believe Keith talked about him 2 weeks ago. Again, this running back story is god-awful.
Brutal.
But I guess at this point in the season, right, you're just trying to find a guy that has somewhat done something in the past couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I guess I would label Roschon Johnson as one of the guys to be able to do something in the last couple weeks. 8 points last week. He's only 37% owned, so he's out there. The big thing is he has a touchdown in consecutive weeks. So he is getting that goal line work. I feel like he doesn't get any work up until that point. However, once the Bears are like inside the 5, he's the guy that they lean on. So do we see his production increase in terms of getting down the field? I don't know. But he's a guy that could give you a touchdown each week. So if you're very, very depleted at the RB position, you missed out on Gus Edwards. Roschon Johnson might not be a bad play because he could be in store for a touchdown each week.
Yeah, I mean, 6 touchdowns on the year. I mentioned the crazy stat last week of how he had 5 touchdowns and not so many good players that we've seen this year already with 5 touchdowns comparing to Roschon Johnson, who's kind of irrelevant in the fantasy world. So I like it a lot. The only issue is, of course, can he be a guy that gets involved more in midfield up until the goal line work? Swift, obviously, he's the Swiftier back, unfortunately, which it's going to be hard to see Roschon get into. But if he can just get a little bit more involved, then I think we can see a lot more production from Roschon Johnson. So I like the pick. I like the pick a lot. Here's my guy, and I think this guy is going to be one of the top ads of the week for running backs. And Zamir Abdallah. You saw Zamir and Madison both dealing with injuries, and I'm sorry, but Abdallah looked the best running back of the whole entire season for the Raiders. Madison couldn't even score over like 12, 13 fantasy points. Zamir barely can do anything. This guy put up 17.5 fantasy points. He's only 33% owned. So he produced very, very well this past week. Now, here's the issue. He's going against Kansas City. Kansas City has the best run defense right now this season. I know it can be hard to trust Amir Abdallah this week, but the reason why I'm saying you can trust him is because he's going against Aiden O'Connell as his quarterback. He's going to be doing a lot of checkdowns to Abdallah. He's going to do a lot of screen passes to Abdallah. And when Madison faced Kansas City, he put up, I think, just 9.3, 9.4 fantasy points. So just shy of double-digit points. I think Abdallah right now is the better back in that backfield, and I think he can score a little bit more than that. And I think we could see him get another 14-plus point game this upcoming week.
I don't disagree at all. Amir Abdullah has been a guy that has kind of bounced around ever since coming into the NFL. I believe I first started knowing about him when he was in the Lions a couple of years ago. Definitely a serviceable guy at times, and we're seeing that right now. You had mentioned that he's looked like the best. I mean, he's only played 1 week, but he's looked like the best running back since, he came here with Zamir and White and Madison in the backfield as well. And I completely agree with you. I mean, you see 17.5 points from Amir Abdullah. I think that if you combine Zamir, White, and Madison's points in 1 week, they haven't done that 1 week this entire year. So Amir Abdullah, definitely a good slot and play guy. I think that you can still do the same thing here, even though Kansas City has the best run defense so far. I completely agree with the fact that Aiden O'Connell will probably be checking down a lot. They'll probably be down the entire game. So, we'll just be trying to score points in that garbage time. I think that you can really get a lot of work.
Amir Abdallah, Gus the Bus Edwards, and Roschon Johnson are top running backs of the week. I do want to quickly mention Jeremy McNichols. If Eckler and Brian Robinson are not able to suit up this upcoming week, obviously it's a short week. I think they play. Do they play Friday? No, I lied. It's not a short week for them. But with the injuries that they have, it can be hard for them to be able to play this upcoming weekend. And if they're both not able to suit up, Jeremy McNichols is 0% owned. And so you can get him anywhere. And he will be the lead back. And in a high-powered offense with Jaden Daniels, I think you could see a good enough production, especially with them going against Tennessee, which Tennessee has kind of a mid-running defense.
Yeah, I mean, also Jeremy McNichols is a former Titan, so maybe he wants a revenge game.
Exactly. Intriguing to see. Let's go into our wide receivers. And Keith. Gary, start with you. I was going to start with Keith, but then I was like, we already did that.
My guy is Adam Thielen. I mean, he's a guy that's...
Who's that? That guy's still here?
Exactly. He's a guy that's kind of overshadowed a lot in fantasy since he's been in the NFL. But he came back this past week, had 8.7 points. He's just under 50% owned. The reason why I have him here is because for some reason, the Panthers and Bryce Young have looked to find somewhat of their stride as of late. And with the vet wideout Adam Thielen returning, maybe that continues. I don't know. I think he could be a spark plug off the waiver wire for anybody who gets him. Like I mentioned, he's always been kind of an underrated fantasy guy and wide receiver in general. And there are weeks where he catches a touchdown and has 15 to 20 points. So I think that if you, again, are depleted at this position, I think Adam Thielen is one of the top guys that you can go get. Don't feel like you can't trust him because he's on the Panthers. I get it, but he's definitely a trustable guy. And like I said, Bryce Young and the Panthers have been kind of playing good as of recent.
Yeah, with Thielen's old age, sometimes you kind of stay away from those guys, especially with a terrible team like the Panthers. But Thielen's found ways to produce in fantasy, and you mentioned how they've been doing good as of late. Bryce Young actually doesn't look that bad recently, shockingly enough. So I really like the pick. I think Thielen is a very, very sneaky guy who is going under the radar in many leagues. Another guy who I think is going even more under the radar is this random dude from Tennessee, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Now, this guy, you might not even know much about him because he's only 21% owned, but he scored 12.8 fantasy points this past week. He didn't get involved this season until after the week 5 bye week. Since then, in 4 of the last 5 games, he's scored double-digit points, with 2 of those being over 15 fantasy points. He has a very favorable matchup closing out the season. He's going against Washington, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and then Jacksonville to end your fantasy championship in week 17, or Houston if people play to week 18. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. This guy has scored 6 touchdowns in the last 7 weeks. He's always being found in the end zone. And again, double-digit points for the last 5 weeks. I mean, this guy is just a guy that you have to go get. He's actually been very consistent. So if you're in need of that wide receiver 3, pushing wide receiver 2, he actually isn't a bad pick.
No, he's not a bad pick at all. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine has kind of been a guy that I don't want to say does this every year, because this has been the best year of his career, especially as of recent. However, I feel like whenever you're watching a Titans game or maybe looking at the game cast, you see a random 60-yard touchdown of Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. That's kind of been how it is past couple of years. However, this year it looks like he's been able to do it numerous amounts of times. He's starting to play really, really good. I think whoever the quarterback is not going to matter, although they're both pretty bad. But I think he's always going to find a way to produce. It's kind of like Adam Thielen. He's already got 6 touchdowns, which is a career high for him, and there's still 5 weeks left in the NFL season. So it's crazy to think. Definitely could be a league-winning flex if he is to keep up that production. So definitely like the pick here.
100%. Do you want to talk about Keith's pick here?
Yeah, Keith's pick is a rookie. I believe he's a rookie this year. Devon Vale from the Broncos put up 14 points last week. People are starting to see his production increase. I think that he had 80 yards last week or something like that. He's got a favorable matchup against my Cleveland Browns coming up. So we'll see how that goes. But maybe we were wrong about the rookie that Bo Nix is going to be thrown to this year. We thought it was going to be his former teammate, Troy Franklin. Maybe it's Devon Vale. Yeah,
I like Vale a lot. I actually picked him up earlier on in the season in my dynasty leagues because I thought he was actually doing pretty good. I was like, this guy's sneaky. And turning out, he looks like he's going to be the clear-cut wide receiver, too, in that offense. And producing, too.
Yeah.
Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and Devon Vale and Adam Thielen, our top waiver wire wide receivers of the week. Let's go into our tight ends. And do you want to finish off Keith's picks and start with his?
Keith took Taysom Hill, who's currently he's coming off a bye. He's playing against who is it that they're playing against? Oh, the Rams, right?
Yep.
Yeah, playing against the Rams this week. Taysom Hill is always going to be there. I feel like he's always going to be either on a team and probably stashed in their bench, or he might pop up on the waiver wire every other week. This is just because if he plays, he's a hit or miss guy, I guess. We talked about him in the past. Went off against my Browns, which just really ticked me off because as much as I want to lose, I'm a big Kamara guy, and I don't own him this year, but I normally own him. So I feel my Kamara owners when we see Taysom Hill into the end zone yet again. It's like a shot to the heart. But definitely a guy to keep an eye on because randomly he has 30-point weeks. So.
Yeah, this is a guy that I think we could talk about every single week.
Yeah.
He's either a guy that you're going to start or he's a guy that you're going to bench and then going to produce so many points on the bench or produce nothing in your starting lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, unless I can start seeing more consistency in Hill, I just think he's a guy you're going to go pick up on the waivers, and then you're just not going to start him.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Gary, who is this guy that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the year 2024. The Chiefs have been Super Bowl winners numerous times. Who would ever expect that we'd be talking about a tight end on the Chiefs not named Travis Kelce? Well, here we are. With 2 great back-to-back weeks, Noah Gray is my guy at the tight end waiver wire spot. Coming in at 22.6 points last week, caught 2 touchdowns, back-to-back games with 2 touchdowns. I believe that Noah Gray is a startable tight end at this point in the season. 8 catches in the last 2 games. Like I said, 4 of them going for TDs. Snap percentage is definitely not eye-popping at all. However, personally, I believe that he could possibly increase that percentage with how he's been playing. I mean, last week I think he put up 18 and 19 points. This week he put up 22. You can't hate on it. I mean, he's done it back-to-back weeks, and he's going up against Las Vegas, which is a favorable matchup for tight ends. Could do it again. He's only 6% owned, so he's out there. What are your thoughts? I mean, Travis Kelce really hasn't looked like the guy this year.
He hasn't looked like the guy, but I find it hard to believe that you could plug in Noah Gray as well in the starting lineup. I mean, I feel like there's more consistent guys out there, but listen, you sold him. I mean, for a lot of people, you sold him. I just don't know if I can back it. I think there's a gray area that I'm maybe missing. But yeah, he's a guy that if you're in desperate need, especially in week 14, which I tell you, there's going to be a lot of teams on a bye week. Baltimore, Denver, Houston, Indy, New England, and then Washington. There are tight ends that are going to be on a bye week. I think this is a guy that you can go pick up and start for week 14. But I think I have to see him produce one more week for me to really trust him.
That's completely understandable. I'm not going to hate on it whatsoever because at the end of the day, he's tight end 2 on the team, so it's completely understandable. However, not only does he have the 4 catches, but I believe he had 6 or 7 targets in the past 2 games. So it's not like, he's just getting 2 catches and running for it or catches a long touchdown. He's getting down the field work. I think Mahomes is starting to trust him a lot more. We've seen him be a guy that randomly gets like a 20-yard catch on a 3rd and 15 scenario, and he's, this very reliable guy. Well, maybe it snapped into Patrick Mahomes' mind. This is a guy that I can use at any time in the game. So we'll see. Besides his past 2 weeks, he hasn't done much. So maybe it's just 2 games that he's been hot. But we'll see. If he scores another touchdown next week, just know he will be my tight end guy again.
I think we're also seeing 2 tight end sets in the formations for the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
I'll finish off with my guy, and my guy is a guy we talk about every week, Zach Ertz. This guy's just Mr. Consistent on the waiver wire. But he is starting to get up there. He's 63% owned, 15.8 fantasy points. He's a top 8 tight end in 2 straight weeks, scoring 15+ fantasy points. He's also gotten 7+ targets in 4 of the last 5 games. And I'm expecting similar against Tennessee this upcoming week. It's more of a tougher matchup for tight ends, but I think this is a matchup that we can still see more production from Ertz. And I think you can easily still get 10+ points with Ertz, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in tight end world, it's a lot.
No, for sure. It's a good pick here. We've talked about him so much this season, so I can't hate it at all, especially considering the fact that he's probably been the guy that I've talked about the most in the tight end position. So, yeah, I can't hate it at all. He's been really consistent, and Jaden Daniels seems to love him and have a connection there. So, not a bad pick at all.
Zach Ertz, Taysom Hill, Noah Gray, our top tight end ads of the week. I do have some breaking news. Per Bleacher Report, Baker Mayfield and his wife, Emily Mayfield, are suing Baker's father's company, claiming that they transferred $12+ million from Mayfield to themselves without authorization.
Wow.
Interesting to see, especially suing your own father. I mean, that's pretty sad. But yeah, $12+ million. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
I can't wait to hear what my dad has to say about it because he's a Baker so much. So I already know it's going to be, here comes who's going to overcome this turmoil and go for 304 touchdowns next week. And
that's going to be so funny. You're going to have to keep me updated on that conversation. But I think that's about it for news and notes and everything waiver related. I think it's time for our very last segment. It's time for Thursday Night Football.
The greatest segment on earth.
The greatest segment on earth. And not only is it the greatest segment on earth, we got ourselves not one, not two, but 3 matchups this Thursday. It's Thanksgiving. So, of course, they have to play a bunch of different games at a bunch of different times throughout the whole entire day. First up, it's the Bears taking on the Detroit Lions in the early window, 48.5 over under. Midday game is the Giants and Cowboys, a slugfest there. Over under 37.5 points, 37.5 points. And then Dolphins at the Packers, the late window game, over under 46.5 points. Gary, we're going to take one by one real quick. Bears at the Lions. Actually, before I even talk about that, let's talk about the overall records. You and I are both still in second and third place, last place, tied 10-14. This is a brutal record to have. But Keith is also doesn't have the greatest. He's sitting at first place, but he's 12-12, sitting at 500. I tell you what, Thursday Night Football has been tough to predict this season. I think most of my losses every single week have come on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, no, it's been very tough to predict. I'm just happy that I'm still in the ball game because I think everybody out there remembers my infamous awful start. Hopefully, I could be in the positives this week if I do pretty good. So.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen. But first, let's start with the Bears and Lions with the over-under 48.5. Who are you taking here?
I got the Lions winning 31-17. I think it'll be maybe a close first half, but Lions are just too powerful. I got the under hitting by half a point. I think a lot of people are going to ride the over. However, this Bears defense is really good. So the Lions, I think, are going to end up getting whatever they want towards the end of the game. However, this first half's kind of going to be back and forth. Maybe expect a lot of punts.
You have the most points projected for the Lions in this game than any of us, and are still taking the under. Yep. Keith and I are both taking the over. Keith is taking 28-17 Lions over, and I am taking 27-24 Lions. A division matchup. It's going to be a lot closer game than we think. The unders is really fascinating.
Oh, no, Keith has the under, actually.
Does he?
Yeah. 28-17, that's 45.
I lied.
I guess you're the only one riding the over, so you could win there.
I am the only one riding the over. I mean, I don't know. I think we're gonna easily see the over in this game. It's an early window game.
Easily, huh?
I think so. We'll rewind the tape next week or on Friday.
Let's see.
Next matchup: Giants and the Cowboys. Will it be DeVito versus Cooper Rush, or will it be DeVito and Daniel Jones? I'm really intrigued. I really want to see Daniel Jones. But no doubt, I think Cowboys easily can handle the Giants. 23-14 is mine. I'm taking the under on this one. Keith here is taking also the under on the Cowboys, 26-10.
I'm going to run with the over. I think the Giants are not going to win, but I think they're going to be sufficient enough to get the over. I got the Cowboys winning 24-17. That Cowboys defense is not good. I know the Giants offense is not good either. However, I think Tyron Tracy is going to have a day running on this Cowboys defense.
I find this. I think it's just you having Tyron Tracy in a lot of leagues.
That might be true, but also, listen, neighbors could have a great day too. This Cowboys defense is not good, so I think at the very least,
they did beat Washington.
That's true, but I mean, at the first half they didn't give up a lot, but they ended up what did Washington finish with? 20 points, something like that, maybe.
It was a fourth quarter crazy fiasco.
Yeah, it was, but I mean, I think the Giants in Danny Cutlets or DeVito can get enough points to Tommy Cutlets get enough points to score to get this over. So
I'm intrigued because you guys took the under in the Lions game. I took the over in the Lions game. I took the under, and you're also taking the over in the Cowboys. I just don't see a world where it can go over. But anyways, let's go into the last one. Thursday Night Football, Dolphins at the Packers. Who are we taking here?
I'm going to ride with my pack, 27-20, hitting the over by a half a point.
Keith also taking the over, 28-23, taking the Packers and the over. This is the one game that all of us are the exact. I'm taking the Packers, taking the over, 29-21. So realistically, it's the first two games that really matter the most for our records.
Yeah, for sure.
And I really hope that one of us, mainly me, can overtake Keith for first place. He's been riding first place for 12 straight weeks. This guy, we need justice. We need ourselves to be able to get first place.
Well, I don't think either of us can personally get first place because, look, we all have the same teams winning, and we only have one difference.
All right, we can do it.
In the totals.
You have the difference in the over-unders. I don't think you can get first. I can tie first.
I only have one difference other than Keith.
Yeah, I have two, which means I have a chance to tie with him.
No, I only see you have one. The Lions game.
No, I have the over with the Lions. He's got no. Yeah, he's got the under with the Lions. I've got the no. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
We can come within one. We can
come within one.
Exactly.
And I just hope he doesn't take a game ahead.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's our Thursday Night Football predictions. And man, it's going to be a mayhem doing the records for next week and talking about it. This is a big one. But of course, that's going to do it here in this week's show. Week 12 waiver wire targets. Our contenders are pretenders. In our Thanksgiving mayhem Thursday Night Football predictions. Again, if you haven't done so already, go follow us all over social media. We are live every single week on Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. You can catch us after the show if you can't make it on YouTube. Catch us after on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Again, if you haven't done so already as well, go to Underdog Fantasy. Use that code SportsTimeHQ. They're going to match your first deposit up to $100. And if you're looking to purchase a trophy, ring, or belt, go to TrophySmack.com/SportsTimeHQ. And if you want to donate us a toilet bowl trophy for none other than Keith when he loses, of course, when he loses our Thursday Night Football predictions after winning it all year, by all means, we'd love the donation. But again, TrophySmack.com/SportsTimeHQ. I was joined by my great co-host, Gary. You can follow him all over GD Picks, all over social media at GD Picks. Follow Keith all over social media at SwamDonkey_90. He'll be back with us next week. And of course, follow me and all of us in our social media platforms, SportsTimeHQ. We'll see you all next Tuesday.